Amen.
It's a good book.
It was, but I think, I'm always big on how God is using the Bible study to carry me through phases of my life. And so I'm looking at this right now, and I know I'm blocking. Um, I'm looking at this face. Hey, Miss Lisa. I'm looking at it like, wow, who would have known at the beginning of Job
Oh my God.
that it would take me through to today, where I'm literally going through the stages of grief.
Okay.
And it's not for a loss of a loved one or a loss of, you know, but it's something still of value. I'm losing what has brought me to this place, what opened the door. But I'm also looking at it as she says, I looked at it as a time of how the growth took place in that, because he's not leaving me. He hasn't left me. He says, no, now watch me do the rest of the story. And see, we don't have the rest of the Job story. The only thing we have is that as a result, Job lived to an old age, that this was restored to him and he lived to an old age. But we don't know what happened during those times or what other things came about. But the we have to recognize that whatever has happened in our lives is not the end of
That's
the
right.
story.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
It's at that time. I'm gonna tell you, if you have not, I am gonna ask that in the next few 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
before we start our next study, if you have not gone through your workbook, just go read different pieces of
My
it,
God.
because I was looking at week 7, and it
Mm.
was like your journal of unlikely joy. And I like how she finishes it. She doesn't go back in and try to teach you something else from the last week. She does a recap of how I can see myself in her teaching, because she takes everything that's happened to her personally and applies it to her teaching, and that way we are better able to relate it than if somebody was talking about something way up here and you like, you ain't lived through that, how you gonna teach me something? How can you tell me about it if you haven't walked it? So I love how she does that. So as we go on page 158 at the back of the book, one of the questions I wrote down was, can you believe that God is promoting you in your suffering? Or are you so caught up in the, oh, well, it's the human side? Are you so stuck in the human aspects of loss that you can't see the spiritual side of that loss that says, okay,
Oh my God.
it hurts. Yes, I'm not going to take that away from anybody. But can you see how God is using that to say,
Hmm.
okay, I need you to focus on me? And she writes on that same page toward the end, that last paragraph, the Lord quite literally picked Job for the honorable position of carrying the weight of pain, in much the same way the host country of each Olympics picks the final torchbearer to light the Olympic flame in the opening ceremonies. God chose Job with the foreknowledge that he would submit to carry suffering well. What has God picked you to carry well?
Hmm.
And I think about that. I think about how he prepared me 2 weeks before we got the announcement that we were closing, and how he was preparing me to be able to handle a lot of things that were going to come at me as a result of that. Y'all, I never knew anger like I knew anger on Wednesday, to the point where I had to call somebody and
Hmm.
say, I can't deal with this.
Wow.
If I don't deal with it, I'm out.
Mm.
Today is it. I
Mm.
can't do it.
Mm. Hmm.
And so he
Wow.
plucks us, and he says, I need you, pay attention to what's happening right now, because you're going to have to go back to this very moment and see what I did, and see how I threaded conversations through your time here in 2.5 years. Think back to
Wow.
conversations you had with your director. Think back to what your director was telling you to do
Mhm.
for such a time as this. And I'm like, oh,
Wow.
so can you see that God is promoting you in your suffering and your anger and your grief,
Hmm.
whatever it is? Can you see how God is promoting you? Because it's so easy right now for us to be in a us meaning
Yes.
managers, us as people being bitter, being angry,
Yes.
being like, you know what, I don't care. You know, if you gonna do this to me, I ain't gonna do nothing. I'm gonna show up to work just to get a check. Or am I still going to work as according to the Lord would have me to work? He called me to this position. I still have a job to do until they say it is finished.
Wow.
Like I said, I think it was just divine how we had to study this for this. Changing our perspective on suffering, viewing it as an honor instead of dumb luck or degrading, could absolutely change the course of our lives and deeply impact the world around us. If you've never gone through foreclosure,
Oh goodness.
when you get that first notice
Woo, Lord
and how
Jesus.
embarrassing it is. And some people aren't fortunate enough to have resources that will not allow your stuff to get put out on the side of the road or on the curb, whether it's foreclosure, eviction, whatever it is. And in reading that, that's exactly what came to me. When we go through that, viewing it as an honor instead of dumb luck or degrading. So many times we look at it as degrading,
Yes.
but maybe God is saying, you know what, you didn't need this anyway. This is too much for you. I didn't tell you to go get it. You went and did this on your own. So I'm going to move you to something else, whatever that else may be. I'm going to move you to something else because I've got a work for you to do.
Wow.
You know, we're so stuck on, oh, what they gonna say, ooh, what they gonna look at, ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, my money may have been fronting from the beginning, but because I wanted it so bad, I put myself in a worse situation just because I wanted it. But God, in the midst of His knowing, in His will, He took it away. And He said, okay, now are you ready to listen? Are you ready? I get what you wanted, but now do what I need you to do. I'm just saying. Endurance of pain with the display of feeling without complaint. On page 159, that's what stoicism is. She says stoicism is not a spiritual gift. Stoicism. I was like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Stoicism. Endurance of pain without the display of feeling and no complaint. Y'all know them. My boys have gotten to this point where they want to be stoic when they get in the spanking. They just stand there like it don't hurt and don't want to cry. That's my best example of what stoicism is. I'm gonna take this pain, but I ain't gonna show you it hurt. I ain't gonna show. I'm not gonna complain about it. And I think about now some of the things I'm going through in my life and my relationship, and I'm like, okay, that's what that is. That's stoicism. You don't want nobody to see that you're hurting, that you're fearful, that you're, that you're scared. No, boo, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen.